Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Wednesday, August 19th, 2020. And our top stories today, we'll catch up on CalSavers and then engaging employers and employees about the plan. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Katie Solinsky. She's the Executive Director of CalSavers. Katie, welcome back to the program. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jeff. Great to be with you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you as always. So before we kind of jump into what's happening with CalSavers, what is CalSavers for those who may not be familiar?
Yeah, so we have a big retirement security problem in California, despite being the fifth largest economy in the world and being the home of, tech industry and all sorts of other successful industries. And so, the legislature looked at that problem and decided to address it head on with a big, bold solution, and that is CalSavers. So, we know that one of the big problems, one of the big drivers of the retirement security problem is people's lack of access to a savings program at work. Research shows that people are 15 times more likely to save for retirement if they can do it at work automatically, kind of out of sight, out of mind. So CalSavers is the state's brand new retirement savings program for people in the private sector who don't have access to a plan at work. And it has two big primary features. Number one is a requirement for employers. If you don't offer a retirement savings vehicle already, then you've got to register with CalSavers and facilitate the program for your employees. And number two, it works on the basis of automatic enrollment for savers. So it's completely voluntary for them, but if they don't want to participate, they do have to opt out. So it's a big, bold solution, and we launched last year, and we're staring down our first employer registration deadline coming up very soon. So we're really excited.
And I want to talk about some of the trends, but I want to remind the audience, a week ago Monday, we actually spoke with Janico Building Services President Lorenzo Harris, and Janico is part of the CalSavers program. We actually touched on that in our second segment. So let's talk about you're over a year in. We'll set aside the pandemic for a short period of time, but how are things looking from a macro perspective in terms of employers, participants in the program? From what I read and what I hear, it's been a resounding success.
We are thrilled to have the level of participation that we have so far, a couple months before our first deadline even. So we consider all of this kind of early adoption. We have a couple thousand employers that are registered with the program already, and they represent businesses of all sizes, from mom and pop shops to larger, more complex companies with thousands of employees in every sector and every location throughout the state. And then, we're seeing a really, participation from the employee side just exactly in line with assumptions from the feasibility study. So we're seeing participation rates about 70% on the employee side, which is really great when you consider, first and foremost, there's no employer contribution, no government contribution, no match really. So no kind of financial incentive like you might see in the 401k space. And then secondly, really importantly, we are here to serve underserved workers who have historically lacked access. And the median income is somewhere around $25,000, $30,000 a year. So the fact that we are seeing, already 20,000 workers saving 5% of their pay every paycheck with no financial really match or incentive, simply because we suggested it and we made it really easy for them, is just incredibly encouraging from our point of view. And all of this is still months before our first real compliance deadline for employers. So we couldn't be happier.
And you mentioned 70%, as you said, that is a tremendous benchmark, and many 401k plans in line with what you see with workplace retirement plans. You mentioned you're coming up on your compliance deadline for employers, and they must adopt this per the legislature. How does that work from a coordinating point of view? I mean, are people asking questions? Are employers asking questions? And then I have a second question and how that relates to the COVID pandemic, and if you've seen any. So let's tackle the hurdle first of, have you gotten any questions?
Oh yes, we get lots of questions. It's a new thing that employers have to pay attention to. So it's only to be expected that we would get questions. But we've designed the program to be as easy as humanly possible for employers to facilitate. We have a great business partner who helps us with all the technology and the record keeping. So the way the deadlines roll out is over the next 3 years, we have 3 annual deadlines based on size. So this first deadline, which was originally July 30th, we pushed it back a quarter to September 30th. We'll get to your COVID questions in a second, but that first deadline is for employers with more than 100 employees. So if they don't already offer a plan, then they have to register with us and start facilitating the program. And then the next deadline is June 30th of next year for more than 50 employees. And then the final deadline in June 30th, 2022 is for that last group, and that's with 5 or more employees. And the interesting thing, Jeff, is that this first tranche, this first deadline, only represents about 4% of the employer volume of our expected pool, but it's over half of the employee volume, which makes sense mathematically. And then over 90% of the employer volume is actually in that third year, that June 30th, 2022. So, that it's still several thousand employers who have this deadline coming up soon. And so, they are asking some questions. We're able to answer all of them fairly easily. We have all kinds of tools and resources on our website, FAQs, guides, videos. We have an amazing customer service center with a dedicated line just for employers. So, the questions are pretty, we have the greatest hits questions, and we know how to support employers with, I would call it, white glove service through this period.
Yeah, and I mean, by all accounts, I mean, as you indicated, just from the statistics, it's been very well received. And how has the pandemic, we'll talk about participants in the second segment and some of the themes and how you're doing outreach. But in terms of employers signing up, you mentioned you pushed back some of the dates. Many small, we had the California State Treasurer on last week when Treasurer Fiona Ma on. Small businesses are challenged right now, but have you had any pandemic-related concerns, I should say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're living on planet Earth. We are very aware of what's going on in the economy right now and with small businesses. So we wanted to be really sensitive to their plight and to the challenges facing them. So as you mentioned, under the Treasurer's leadership and with the board's approval, we pushed that first deadline back by a quarter. And that was received very positively in the kind of employer advocacy community. I think at this point, some of them took advantage of that. Many of them took advantage of that and are taking their time. Others have registered and gotten started with the onboarding process. As I mentioned, we already have a couple thousand employers on board. But, I think that, what we're hearing at the call center is, some employers are saying, I'm ready to do this, but we're shut down right now. Our lights aren't on. And so as soon as we have, employees working in and payrolls operating, we'll be ready to go. Others are calling to say, hey, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to turn the lights on again. I'll let you know. And yet there's a third category, and I would say it's the largest category. Employers who maybe have, their business has slowed down a little bit, but they're still up and running. They're still paying people, and they're getting started with the program. So we're, trying to do everything we can to kind of customize our approach for each employer based on their situation and understand that this is, to use an overused word, an unprecedented time. But it is a challenging time to be launching a program that has an employer requirement associated with it. But I'm really proud of the work that we're doing here with stakeholders and with our business partners to really meet employers where they're at.
Yeah, and now, if I just may add, it now couldn't be a more important time with people struggling and needing the financial wherewithal. This seems to me the optimum time. Well, Katie, I want to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Katie about CalSavers' engagement with individuals and participants. How are they doing? What are they doing? Stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
If you were like 58% of Americans, you didn't go to college. Or you did, but never finished. Maybe it's the thought of a big, intimidating campus. At Independence University, all classes are held online. Maybe it's the thought of being alone in a sea of students. At Independence U, you'll get a personal support team to help you every step of the way. Maybe it's the cost of all those books and supplies. Online means no books to buy. We even give you a new laptop and tablet to keep when you graduate. Maybe your life doesn't fit typical college classes. At Independence U, our online college fits your schedule. Let's meet a few students.
Independence University held my hand through the process.
Don't be afraid to take the leap because it has changed my life drastically.
Just take the first step and you can do it. If I did it, you can do it too.
At IU, there's no barriers to your degree.
800-535-9916.
Welcome back. We're talking to Katie Solinsky of Cal Savers. Katie, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great talking with you. So a lot of great work being done for employers, getting them set up, and a lot of success to date with that pilot program and getting more and more employers in to the platform. Let's talk about the individual, the participant, the employee, however you want to refer to him or her. What are some of the outreach efforts that are being done? Because I know you and your partner, you mentioned your partner, I'll just say them, Ascensus. They're a great partner. You all are doing cumulative outreach to get people understanding why they should save and whatnot. So what are some of the efforts there?
Yep. So we have, in general, we think about outreach as in two buckets. One, the employer outreach, which we've discussed a little bit, and then the saver outreach. And really we partner not only with our formal business partners, Ascensus and others on that, but with our many, many wonderful stakeholder partners in the state on outreach to savers. So we have a very robust field outreach team here in Sacramento, who is very, very busy doing webinars. Previously, we were out there traveling the road all the time, talking to consumer groups, labor-oriented organizations, community organizations to get the word out, because we know that the best way to get the word out is through trusted influencers, so that people, whether they're employers or workers, hear about the program through their trusted influencers, people they already admire and listen to on other things. So that kind of field outreach program has transitioned to online. And really, you mentioned this earlier, Jeff, but, we think that this crisis has really underscored the need and shined a light on the need for people to have short and long-term savings, and a way to, do that really, really easily. So we are really proud that Cal Savers, meets both of those needs because of the structure, the Roth IRA structure. People do have access to their contributions, tax and penalty free if they may need them. Of course, we don't want people to access their long-term savings and the investments if they can avoid it. But we know that we're talking to a group of savers who are, in many cases, first-time savers, first-time investors. Again, I mentioned the 25 to 30,000 median income. So, we're trying to adjust our messaging to really highlight, now more than ever, Cal Savers is important for employers. It's important for you as part of your recovery plan and being a competitive, employer out there in the economy. For savers, we need financial resilience in the short and long term, and Cal Savers is here to make it really easy for you to set it and forget it. And happy to discuss some of the trends that we're seeing on the saver side with regard to.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So what are you seeing? Because this group, as you said, is really underserved.
Mm-hmm.
They're underserved in terms of not having access. Now they do. But what are some of the key trends that you've uncovered?
Well, we've been absolutely surprised and delighted to see that people are still saving. We have actually quadrupled the number of funded accounts since February, believe it or not. And people, what we found is that if people are still working, they're still saving. And we've seen that if they're still working and they are presented, if their employer gets kind of onboarded and registered with CalSavers and they have the opportunity, they're sticking with the program. Again, we have that 70% participation rate. So we have thousands of new funded accounts coming on board, every week. It's really exciting. We also have been surprised to see that the withdrawal rate has not been anywhere near what we thought it would be. In January, February, March, I was personally, bracing myself for some pretty substantial withdrawals. And, it did go up a bit earlier in the pandemic and the shutdown, but it really then leveled out, by May, it leveled out to, actually lower than pre-COVID levels. And it's starting to inch back up again, but it's still much, much lower than we might have thought when we were staring down, a huge recession here and unemployment rates, being where they are. So, I think it speaks to the strength and the power of the structure that we've designed here. It's a really simple, easy financial product. People can get in and out whenever they want. And it really, is designed to work for working people who have historically not had access. So just really delighted to see the rates of participation staying where they are.
Yeah, that's a testament to the work of you and the outreach team and others in local and state government. Katie, CalSavers is unique in California, but there are other programs around the country that are popping up. How often do you speak with your colleagues, your peers in Oregon, Illinois, some of the other states, and share insights? Because at the end of the day, there are lessons to be learned in all these different places and how to reinforce and make the program even better.
The answer is very frequently. In fact, I was just texting with my peer in Illinois a few minutes before we got on this call, Jeff. It's so proud to be colleagues and partners with Illinois and Oregon on this. It's all of our leaders in our states, treasurers, the boards that we serve, we're pioneers really in setting out to establish these programs. And we are proud that we're really proving that it works. It's simple, it works. When you give people access and make it easy, they will save. And then we have all kinds of kind of informal and formal mechanisms to talk it with the quote pipeline states. So those states who have already passed legislation but are pre-implementation, as well as those states who are in the legislative phase. So, it's incredible. I've been, very grateful to have the insights from my friends in Oregon and Illinois who are, a step ahead of us on the implementation side. That's been incredibly valuable for me. It's really great to not be the very first out of the gate. And then, I try to pay that forward and help our pipeline states as much as possible, because we're all trying to serve the same mission and get access for folks who have been underserved historically.
Well, Katie, I want to thank you very much. Well, first, congratulate you, I guess, I know, congratulate you on all the great success you and your team have had and the employers have had in terms of recruiting and getting people to save. Much well wishes for continued success, and I look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you, Jeff. Happy to come back anytime.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.